station merchandise store on the station website. Of course, the breaking news is that we have now Larry Krasner again. Everybody listening has seen by now the situation with Officer Mark Dial. And I think it's what I said at the time, I think is still accurate.
But
But
apparently, the new part, there are two new parts to this. This is the cop that shot the guy to death who was mentally disturbed over in Kensington. That apparently, we're told in the courtroom now, the preliminary hearing before the judge with Mark Dial, they played, and I guess they had better amplification, that the partner officer clearly is saying blanking gun, meaning the man who was shot had a gun. That's what he was under. Now, whether or not Officer Dial in any way, shape, or form violated police procedure in this, I'd be willing to hear that. I think any reasonable person would. But a criminal act here, and you can see in the video that he does believe he has a gun because he's kind of crouching in the aftermath of the shooting or during it to protect himself. Now, could you charge him with involuntary manslaughter or one of those things around manslaughter? I don't think it would be appropriate, but if Larry Krasner did that, okay. As much as I think it's not a criminal behavior here, you might get that. But no, not Larry Krasner. And no, not that this guy can breathe and have out of jail. This guy, this menace, he is the biggest and the best. George Soros probably wants to have him at a testimonial dinner once a year. All these other guys pale in comparison, and women. These Soros-backed creeps that are just attacking America. But this guy right here, and everybody's afraid of him. Is the Inquirer? Are the other media going to tell you this was an overcharge, as Dawn and I did? Rich, Nick? Are they going to tell you it's outrageous? How about Officer Parnell? Remember him? The officer who shot this maniac, defending the rest of us? Krasner, so egregious in what he did with the grand jury, et cetera, that Johnny Doc's brother, even though Johnny Doc was up for sentencing, personally wrote an opinion, injected himself in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court about what Krasner did with that officer. I'm told it's almost to the day that that officer was finally relieved, and now we have Mark Dial. What is the sickness of these progressives? I'm no longer going to ask that. The cure is to stop every single one of them and to vote every Democrat enabler out of office because they will not step up to these people. These Democrats in town, when I talk with them, and they're cagey, they're smart politic. Remember we did the big six-party debate, all that? They don't know what to do about Krasner. There's only one thing that works with Krasner. Relentless, all-out pressure. Now, I'm told, Dan, and you may not have seen this, that Derek Green, who's an African-American former prosecutor, smart guy, ran for mayor. He's apparently going to run against Krasner. It's going to be interesting. I have some hope there that he's the type of guy that might finally end this nightmare. But that's not for a while. In the meantime, Krasner continues to go down Broadway or Broad Street. Nothing other than defeating him is going to stop him. He is emboldened. He's arrogant beyond belief. And before the day is over, at least by tomorrow, he will recharge Officer Dial. I don't know if he'll recharge him on new charges to still be first-degree murder. Imagine that cop could get the death penalty. Well, thanks, Josh Shapiro, you can't get the death penalty, but life imprisonment for his actions here. If that doesn't show, but the mob in Philadelphia, the cops are the problem. So the mob in Philadelphia, played by progressives, It's not the progressives. It's not the lack of enforcement of the law. It's not the violence that's going on, the killing. It's the NRA. It's the cops. It's Trump. It's talk radio. Well, they got defeated in the last election, in the primary anyhow, because Sherelle Parker is for stop and frisk, things of that nature. I think has said she's going to be on the show on October 13th in studio, that she would want someone connected to the Philadelphia Police Department to be the next chief of police. So I await your reaction here, 855-839-1210. We got a great side question today. We got a lot of stuff. Dan got a personal communique from Brian Fitzpatrick. We hope to get him on this week. I know he's flying. He sent Dan this bill to head off a shutdown of the government. And he says it's a Republican bill. It's not the Democrats driving this, but it is Republicans allying themselves with Democrats to get a continuing resolution going and not shut down the government. You know, since yesterday when we played you that, and we have more on Ukraine, we played you yesterday that 60 Minutes report. I'm going to play it again in a second about how we're propping up Ukraine's economy. I found out since yesterday that even though a lot of people associated with the federal government, military, border patrol, they won't get paid if there's a shutdown. Dan, I found out by 3 sources today who will get paid. All these people we're propping up in Ukraine are still going to get paid.
No.
It's a non-starter.
Oh,
Yep, we have it here,
on.
chapter and verse. No more money for them. I'm tired of the corruption. We also found, I'm going to play you a guy who is kind of a free agent, Glenn Greenwald. Glenn Greenwald talking about the idea that they're making excuses that a number of the troops in Ukraine, or at least significant numbers, are wearing Nazi-themed insignia on their hats. Listen to this from Glenn Greenwald. And remember, we're supporting, and they want another $24 billion. Here's Greenwald saying, the Western media overlooks the Nazi element here. Imagine if these were Trump people with some kind of Nazi-like insignia. Here is Greenwald's, I think it's on, well, it might be his own podcast. Here's Glenn Greenwald breaking that down.
The Times goes on, quote, the iconography of these groups, including a skull and crossbones patch worn by concentration camp guards and a symbol known as the Black Sun, now appears with some regularity on the uniforms of soldiers fighting on the front line, including soldiers who say the imagery symbolizes Ukrainian sovereignty and pride, not Nazism. Try that. Go out on the street if you're a conservative in the United States, proudly wearing Nazi symbols and Nazi ideology. And when your photo is taken and the New York Times publishes it, and every liberal journalist in this country demands that you get fired from your job and excluded from the financial system, try this excuse that the New York Times is accepting from Ukrainians wearing Nazi symbols. Oh, I don't interpret the swastika or the Black Sun or these other Nazi symbols as Nazism. I just interpret that as American sovereignty and American pride. Let me know if that works out.
That is a great point from Glenn Greenwald. So they're going to get paid. They'll get paid, but not others here in America. Well, we got to keep doing that. It's all about winning the war. It's all about fighting the Russians. Several people today have posted a look at various barracks of American troops, how bad they are, the toilet areas, things of that nature. Yet we're hell-bent to send this money to Ukraine. Now, look, Matt Gaetz is despicable to me. You should just know, oh, you can't say that. No, he is. I don't like him even a little bit. He's not someone in this I'm relying on with this. But there are too many Republicans that are willing to continue to send this money to Ukraine. What am I missing? Well, the argument, they're doing our bidding with the Russians. We got to give them whatever they want. Here is 60 Minutes, 60 Minutes now, hardly a conservative, Trump-leaning outfit. Here is 60 Minutes telling us we're not only funding the munitions, we hear this all the time, we're propping up their economy. Here's their lead from Sunday night.
American taxpayers are financing more than just weapons. We discovered the US government's buying seeds and fertilizer for Ukrainian farmers and covering the salaries of Ukraine's first responders, all 57,000 of them. That includes the team that trains this rescue dog named Joy to comb through the wreckage of Russian strikes looking for survivors. And the US also funds the divers, who we saw clearing unexploded ammunition from the country's rivers to make them safe again for swimming and fishing. Russia's invasion shrank Ukraine's economy by about a third. We were surprised to find that to keep it afloat, the US government is subsidizing small businesses, like Tatiana Abramova's knitwear company.
These are Ukrainian towns. That's Kiev, I recognize.
Yeah. Especially in the condition of war, we have to work. We have to pay taxes. We have to pay wage, salary to our employees. We have to work. Don't stop.
Why does that help Ukraine win the war?
Because economy is the foundation of everything.
I don't know what it is about that woman, Dan. When I saw it, I can't take it, right? Her cockamamie stuff we're selling around the world, small business here. Yeah, try to do that in Philadelphia. Move heaven and earth, anything there. Tatiana. They'll bring her to the State of the Union. Tatiana, show us that Kiev scarf. Let's see how that's going to play with the average American given Bidenomics here. 855-839-1210. Those are a couple of things, though. Please get in. Officer Mark Dial, we are watching that with various sources. We're going to be joined, Dan, right at 12:15 by someone, right? Ben Manis, who has a lot to say, criminal expert on what happened here. But we got other people out there because we believe they're still in the courtroom. I'm not sure why. Two key things from the officer, as far as I can tell. One, the tape is more blatant of what that cop heard, the judge taking that into account. And two, clearly overcharging him. This is murder one. This is life. Based on this, oh, that's what the community wants. Krasner and every creep progressive who has allowed Kensington to become what it is over the last umpteen years, and you throw cops down in that and tell them somehow or another to keep the peace. The definition of that means that drug addicts overrun the landscape, many of them not even from Philadelphia. Drug dealers act with impunity. Fentanyl, there are days for it, sales and everything else. And then you have this mentally disturbed guy who in some way, shape, or form is resisting. Now, is every action of Officer Dial here, as I say, could there be departmental discipline? Yeah, I can see that. I can see that being broken down. But I think there's a delay, Dan, maybe in the FOP responding, because we believe, based upon what we're told, they're in court still, not sure exactly why or what's going on. But the initial verdict by the judge was to throw this out. When does it become? Now, I know what the law is on this, but I'm just asking, as a principle, when does it become double jeopardy? But you know how the media, the rest of the media is going to be reporting this. They're going to be reporting this. They want the avenging angel. They want Larry Krasner to smite this cop. Philadelphia won't be safe until the community believes that Larry Krasner took out this cop. That's what they want. Ignoring the evidence of every other criminal incentive that's out there. Is it the cops? And again, Dan, I'll let you on your own. You, I think, share that, though, not exactly seeing what the cop did here as entirely appropriate, potentially.
Yeah, I thought it was a quick to react kind of situation. But I mean, if you're trained that when you hear gun,
Right.
to react in that kind of manner, then I don't know how you can charge someone with first-degree murder.
Yeah, it's pretty much that's it. That's how simple it is. All right, phone lines are 855-839-1210. Let me give you the side question today. We got a twofer here. Yesterday, we talked about great rivalries coming off what the Cowboys did, losing, and how happy people were. But
Yes.
Chris Christie was munching away in that box with Jerry Jones.
Yeah. Surprised no Bruce Springsteen up there with him.
Oh, come on now. You don't know that about Springsteen.
He's a Cowboys
Yeah,
fan.
well, yeah. Who else is a Cowboys fan that you know what they're
Yeah, right?
hiding?
That
Yeah.
is not the side question, but it'll be a great one. Who else
Yes.
is probably a Cowboys fan?
No, what an embarrassing spectacle. He embarrasses himself constantly, Chris Christie.
Mhm.
So we're looking for all-time embarrassing moment.
Oh, I like that.
It could be somebody like a person. It could be somebody. I'll give you one. I'm only taking it off to illustrate. I know people wouldn't remember it like I do. I thought Dan Quayle was an unbelievable lightweight. I don't care that he's a Republican.
Oh. Mhm.
Well, it's a twofer here. He comes to Trenton during the campaign. Kid writes out the word potato, a seventh grader, spells it correctly, shockingly, for Trenton on the board. Not only does Quayle say it's wrong, he goes over and adds an E to it.
Spell that again. And add one little bit on the end. Just think of potato. How's it?
Have to spell correctly right now.
Yeah.
And he makes him spell it wrong.
There you go.
Putting an E on the end of potato. It'd be one thing if the kids misspelled it and Quayle, I don't know, but putting an E on the end of potato is
Potato.
just,
No, so
That
has he
was
spent
one
his
of the-
entire life spelling potato with an E, you think?
yes. And then the
Nobody's
goofball, her
corrected
name
him?
was Venable, the superintendent of schools, Dan, tried to argue it was the old English spelling with an E on the end of
Oh,
potato.
that's right.
She's a bigger embarrassment
hilarious.
potential. Yeah. So that's what I'm looking for, a gaffe, an embarrassment, maybe a big consequence, maybe a small. It was just something, difficult. What do you have, Dan?
I got one in the realm of politics and one outside the realm of
Okay.
politics. First, in the realm of politics, got to take Carlos Danger off the board.
Yes.
Anthony
oh,
Weiner's
that's a
wiener.
great one.
Yeah, yeah. Everything that guy got caught up in had to be incredibly embarrassing. But the non and a little bit more funny, but absolutely horrific to have to suffer through, but a very embarrassing moment outside of the politics. Year's 2005, Dom. It's the Royal Rumble, WWE. Vince McMahon angrily runs into the ring, and on his way diving into the ring, it hits him in a certain spot, and he tears both of his quads. So he has to do the rest of the segment while sitting on his butt in the corner of the ring in absolute pain with two torn quads. That's going to be a very embarrassing moment.
All right. So that's 855-839-1210. That embarrassing moment. You got to come up with a good one today on that. And give me your reaction to what's happened here. You've seen the tape by now with Officer Mark Dial. Again, Krasner land this Thursday. We keep the fire going on Larry Krasner. I'm betting he will recharge. The media will go along with it and say entirely appropriate. They're not talking about double jeopardy or hasn't this cop been through enough or something else. They want blood if it's a cop. If it's a criminal, well, then we have to understand it's poverty. It's an NRA. It's Trump. It's guns. All right, 855-839-1210. Tom Giordano's show. Spoke to a news person, Dan, in the hallway, just happening by, and made mention that the judge in the case of Mark Dial did get rid of all charges. There were other more minor charges there. Not exactly sure why. Maybe the judge just doesn't like the whole idea of what the hell went on here.
Wow.
All right. And maybe, is there really a Philadelphia judge that can resist? Keep your eye out. Larry Krasner's about ready to, he's probably getting busloads of people to stand beside him on the little placards, etc. Ladies with walkers as you drink some coffee, but he's gonna
Open
blow
up all the warehouses. We need all the blocks.
He's gonna blow today, aren't you, Larry? He's gonna blow up today, big time. The overcharging, the anti-cop.
I
Let's
do have a
face it.
statement from
Yeah.
his office.
Yes.
They just released after the municipal court's judge dismissal of all criminal charges, including murder against former police officer Mark Dial for his role in the fatal shooting last month of Eddie Izzieri. District Attorney's Office disagrees with the decision by Municipal Court Judge Wendy Pugh to dismiss all criminal charges against defendant Mark Dial for the killing of Eddie Izzieri on August 14th, 2023. Special Investigations Unit prosecutors will be filing an appeal of this decision to the Court of Common Pleas by the end of today.
There we go.
In keeping with our oath to seek justice, we will move to have all criminal charges, including murder, reinstated against this defendant.
There we go. Didn't take Larry, buddy. Dan, the two of us, this is like a Borscht Bell act. I'm on the one side, he's on the other. We're not going to go away. We're going to be in hell fighting. Well, hopefully I won't be there. Or Philadelphia is already our own hell. How do we know we're not in hell? Well, Larry Krasner's DA, that would be an indicator we are. It's a bizarre world. The devil has a sense of humor here. Let's go to Ben Manis, who is an expert in residence here. When it comes to, I don't know why that's his intro
It's a
now.
music review in Larry. You're eternal.
Oh, okay. When it comes to matters of crime, police action, and even Larry Krasner, Ben with us on Talk Radio 1210. Hey, Ben.
Hey,
Well-
Tom, how are you, man? Lots to unpack here today.
Yes, and our sources tell us some of it had to do with the playing of the tape. But if that
Yeah.
were the sole thing with Judge Wendy Pugh, I could see her then allowing the lesser charges to continue. I think the overcharging and the tape so outraged her, she dismissed it.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually part of the equation. So a lot of people who are laymen look at these things and just go, what's the evidence? And obviously the evidence shows that, they chased this guy in a car, in a marked car. They came out in uniform, guns raised, told him to show his hands, and he went and reached. Now, whether you reach for a gun or a knife, what have you, once you reach after you've been told, that officer has obviously the belief that that person could come up with a deadly weapon, especially after a high-speed car chase down the wrong way of the street. So, yeah, I mean, the evidence shows that there's clearly not enough here for premeditated murder. And looking at it from a municipal court judge doing a presentment, arraignment, or preliminary hearing, which was what Judge Pugh's role here was, right, municipal.
Yes.
The problem is that Krasner so egregiously stacked the charges that they ended up legally canceling each other out. I mean, it was kind of obvious what he was doing, and this judge wasn't having it because, again, this is a guy who ran on a platform that overcharging was, demonizing a community and causing imbalances in the criminal justice system. But let's break this down. Premeditated murder 1, which means you actually planned to and committed a homicide. We know that didn't happen because none of these people were in each other's lives 3 minutes before this happened. They were literally responding to a crime. Then they charged the voluntary manslaughter. So again, if he murdered them premeditatedly, how was he then voluntarily manslaughtering him? Then he charged aggravated assault. So he tipped all 3 boxes down a line of succession that were redundant. And
That's what you think the
tipped
judge is doing.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, if they made it, see, this is always Krasner's downfall. If he'd have charged involuntary manslaughter.
Yes.
Because again, we know for a fact that this officer didn't plan on killing this kid. We also know the fact that the kid, from his own parents, he had a mental issue. He was weapons obsessed. He had weapons, and he was for whatever reason, doing this crazy Wild West stunt show with this Corolla down the wrong way of the street with the cops behind him, lights and sirens. So it isn't like, they could argue, some kind of accident or mistake or bad tactics. And we could obviously see the tactics needed improvement. But, look, even here in Pennsylvania, you look at the case law. In Pittsburgh, there was an officer that was a pallet charged, and he shot a kid in the back running out of a car that just committed a drive-by shooting. The kid dumped the gun in the car. He only had the magazine on him still. That cop got acquitted. So, I mean, he's not looking at case law. He's just charging away to keep his voter base happy. And look at Amadou Diallo in New York in '99, the 41 shots case. Those got found. Those guys got acquitted.
Yeah, and Ben, it seems to me here, look, I don't know if he followed police procedure here, if he has, if he was overly jumpy here. I think that's an open debate. I'm being fair about it when I saw this. But beyond involuntary manslaughter, even that seems a reach. It just is a tell of what this is, just outright with this guy, and he can't control himself to nail the cop, to your point. He's got to nail him to the cross, so to speak. That's where this goes.
And this is his history. And this is where I want to see what next steps. But first off, you could see a political line in the sand here. So Judge Lillian Ransom, off the first appearance, Democrat, elected Democrat, holds this guy in jail like he's a flight risk, which is just abominable. And this poor guy has spent upwards of a month in jail at this point. So what's her decision? And then Wendy Pugh, who's actually nonpartisan, she was an independent elected to the MC bench, says, the law isn't here. I don't know where you're getting this. And she dismisses the charges. Now, we know Krasner's going to refile.
Well, he did.
And here's the thing.
He already told us. We have this statement
he
here.
said he's going to. Well, there's a difference between saying it and doing it.
Yeah.
For example, after the third iteration of getting smacked down on the Penal case, he's still in the media saying he intends on recharging Ryan Penal. Now, why is he doing this? He's protecting his backside. There is I wrote about this. Everyone's, you're going to write about this. Because I already wrote it. The unfortunate thing is this is Groundhog Day with this guy. I wrote about this in July of 2022 of how Krasner is violating a Supreme Court ruling called Thompson v. Clark, where he can be charged. He can be sued for going after these officers' civil rights because they've been found not guilty.
Who could do that? Who would have standing to do that?
So the FOP could file a class action suit on behalf of people like Penal, Dial, Bologna, Nicoletti, people who the charges were so egregious, and I could list them all on those cases. You've covered it ad nauseum. That it was clear their rights were violated by Krasner. Here's what Krasner's slick little way of doing this is. He gets the charges dropped before trial, not formally acquitted. And then he intends, quote unquote, on refiling, or he refiles at a lesser charge and then drags out the appearances with continuances years on end. Because the minute these officers are found not guilty, they have a hell of a claim, class action against Krasner.
Well put, Ben. Now, look, I'll just tell you one, though. We just read the statement. He is filing with Commonwealth Court today, Common Pleas Court. So yes. he is doing that. Now, whether or not he'll give up, and as you said, behind the scenes give up, we'll see. I have my doubts.
This is what he did with Bologna.
Yeah.
It's what he did with Bologna. So Bologna's charge, obviously, one, the injuries didn't match the charges on this protester. Two, they charged the man with possession of an instrument of a crime. It was his department issued baton. They did the same thing with Nicoletti on the expressway.
Okay, now Ben Manis, you're going to be writing about this for Broad and Liberty.
I'm gonna put it together.
All right, Ben. Will you let us know when that's there? We'll promote it. Thank you, Ben.
You got it, pal. Talk to you soon.
Ben Manis here on Talk Radio 1210. So he sees it a little bit differently, but he already has issued a statement, and I believe he will file with Common Pleas Court. Did he say Commonwealth Court? I think it's Commonwealth Court on appeal rather than Common Pleas. That would be the higher court.
No, it's the Court of Common Pleas.
Oh, Common Pleas. Okay. And Wendy Pugh, that is an interesting thing. Ben says she's an independent. Let's take a moment to celebrate. Do we actually have a reasonable Philadelphia judge here who looked at this and said, I'm dismissing all of it because it's all overcharging? Wow. That is just shocking that this has happened. I know you're saying, Don, why are you celebrating now? You got to take a moment here. Is there a reasonable person in Philadelphia in black robes? Wow. Hard to believe. What does it tell us about Krasner? It just reinforces he marches on. He's only going to be stopped by somebody who can go all out. I've told you that Derek Green, I think, could beat Larry Krasner. I don't know, but I think he's going to run against him. And it's going to be very interesting to see Larry Krasner lecturing an African-American male who lives in, well, I don't know, high crime neighborhood, but he lives in Mount Airy and lives where there is crime versus Larry Krasner, who I don't think lives in a neighborhood like that. Just saying. And the last time I checked, he might not have the same identity. But he
Question for
knows
you.
better. Yes.
Ben mentioned during the interview, they'd have great grounds for a class action
Yes.
lawsuit a second something like this thrown out. Do you not think there's enough already for a class action lawsuit against the guy?
Oh, it ought to be the world against Krasner.
I
Yes,
just think
yes.
there's so much that these guys have already on their plate. It's like,
Well, but he gave you the technicality. They'd have to be found not guilty with the
Yeah.
overcharging and all that. That's how he might escape.
Gotcha.
He's the problem. But you know who else is the problem? Every Democrat who doesn't speak up and every media type who just continues as this is business as usual. I think a lot of them believe this cop's a killer. I don't. I don't know that he should remain a cop. I don't know that he acted by the book as far as Philadelphia cops. That's an open question. But that's involuntary manslaughter, if that. And Ben made a good point. It was a chase, wrong way down the street. You're in the middle of Kensington. The guy's reaching all over the place. You got to realize the expectation in a situation like that, the cop might fire. It's obvious. That's not murder. 855-839-1210. And you don't keep him in jail forever. Judge Ransom that Ben mentioned. It's not a flight risk. Give me a break. Just imagine how people are treated here if you're a cop. Why would anyone want to be a cop in Philadelphia? How hard it is to recruit. I did see they got some new cops. They spent $1 million to do it. We'll see how that works out. I'm hoping with a new regime, either Parker or O, that a lot of this changes. But the bottom line is the biggest stumbling block to change is not going anywhere. All right, so we'll see. We'll take your calls coming up. Don't forget the side question here, too. And President Trump on the whales and speedboats causes quite a reaction from the Biden administration, who think there's nothing wrong with the wind turbines and that the whales are not being thrown off by them. It's shipping. It's people going too fast. Fossil fuels. 855-839-1210. You get in. Let's talk Captain Chucky, though, for a moment. Hey, for all seafood lovers who still haven't tried Captain Chucky's crab cakes, what are you waiting for? Captain Chucky's, they're always trying to keep things new and fresh. If you haven't tried the new banging crab ravioli or lobster ravioli, their amazing blush sauce, now's the time. Also try Captain Chucky's brand new product, Philly Famous Clams Casino, a mouth-watering addition. Ask your local Captain Chucky's about availability for that one. Several choices of breaded, non-breaded crab cakes. Literally a crab cake for everybody. Dessert, soup, sides, appetizers. Of course, my personal favorite, the Dom roll. Only the highest quality ingredients. And that Gulf shrimp is always a huge hit. It's always wild caught, never farm raised. Perfect time for like Monday Night Football or the game's coming up Thursday night. Visit one of Captain Chucky's 19, soon to be 20 locations. New owners, Frank Falacci and Michelle Burns in Colmar, John and Cindy Clark in Huntington Valley, Tony and Jamie Parson in Cinnamenson, in Runnymede, New Jersey, see the Vogelsang family in Flowertown, the Smaraglia family. In Ocean City, Chris and Donna Ryan. In Sea Isle, the McCann family. Sea Isle and Ocean City open Fridays and Saturdays, noon to 5. Congrats to Sam Cancieri and Irish Mike McGarry. The Medford, New Jersey location is open. Coming soon to Northeast Philly Home Circle. Congrats to the Graziani family. Remember the website, welovecrabcakes.com. Dom Giordano Show, taking your calls. And then coming up, President Trump gets a little bit out there talking about why do we need speedboat restrictions? Ships are not suddenly, and he's right about this in his own mangled way. Ships are not killing whales. It's wind turbines that are throwing them off. And I think that's the fact. The Biden administration is outraged over that, saying, imagine if Joe Biden said something goofy like Trump says all the time. Meanwhile, Biden, Dan, has a specialist to work on a certain way of walking so he doesn't tip over.
Really?
He's wearing tennis shoes
He's
now.
a walking coach.
Yeah, he's a walking coach, and he's wearing tennis shoes with suits. And if you notice, they cut down the number of steps to get on he goes to the lower deck now to get on Air Force One rather than walking up the higher steps.
Ah.
This is the ticket. Can they get through to the finish line, which is still a year and 2 months or so away? I don't think so.
So now that the president's rocking the tennis shoes with the suit look, does that mean it's officially okay to wear in
Oh
professional
God,
setting?
it still just doesn't have I like at the bottom of your pants like a sharp type of edge to it.
Yeah.
It can be, I don't want slim jeans thing, and they can be not a baggy look, but you know what I mean, not a cut that way. They don't have to be that tight, but they shouldn't look. I don't know. Wearing sneakers with him just look awful, and that's what he's doing. They look like boat shoes, and he's got a fancy suit on. My God, what are they going to do to get over the finish line? God, every step they have to worry about what he might do next. All right, Joe and Ambler, I'm sure he sees the wisdom of not overcharging today. Hey, Joe, how have you been? What's your reaction to this?
Hey, what's happening, Dom? Yeah, I think you got a problem with your the fear. You know, fear no longer holds the water. You know, no pun intended. You get it?
Well, Joe, rather
didn't
than talk around the subject, you seem to think I'm told that a prosecutor should overcharge people.
hook, line, and sinker.
That's not the way it works.
What we call it. Look, we call it hook, line, and sinker. When the judge, right, says or complains, then what does Krasner do? Okay, he doesn't overcharge because the charges are then what? Dismissed. Didn't your just the guy that just spoke? Didn't he just speak on that?
Excuse me,
He said
Joe.
that that's his routine.
Excuse me, Joe.
Go ahead.
The prosecutor starts the process. You either charge on point, you undercharge, or you overcharge. He overcharged.
Right.
You can't
Or
believe
you
this is
can
first-degree
dismiss,
murder.
Or you can dismiss at any time. Can't the prosecutor also choose that? And that's his modus operandus.
Yes, with criminals.
In all these
With
other
criminals.
cop cases,
With criminals.
with the cops. See, in all these other cop cases, he's
Yeah.
done the exact same thing and ended up with what? Guilty pleas. You don't see it.
Wait
do
a
you?
minute. Excuse me, Officer Pinnell.
Not guilty pleas, but they've been found what? Guilty. Right?
No, they have not. Officer Pinnell, the state Supreme Court dismissed Krasner on it, Joe.
Oh, okay. So that's one. So do you think that's what's going to happen with this, or what about the others?
Yes, I think that's going to happen with this. My God. I just brought him on just to see, where do you go next with this? How do you try to spin it? What will the media do with this now? You know what they'll do, Dan? And look, I understand the loved ones of this guy who was mentally disturbed. They're going to be out there. There's no justice. There's no justice. You're going to see the no justice, no peace type of thing. You're going to see the ministers who get the grants from Krasner rally with poor Larry on this. He's finally setting things straight. That's what you're going to see here. What about the cop who has to sit there in jail during this period of time, no flight risk, has lost his job as a cop, and that may be justified ultimately, and is charged with first-degree murder in a city that avoids doing that if at all possible, where it's an open shootout every second of every day? 855-839-1210. This guy's got to be taken on. It's going to take a lot to defeat him. But there's a possibility with some of the people I'm hearing, like Derek Green. That's my hope. But it's not easy. He skillfully takes all this money, the millions of dollars he gets, gives it to influential leaders who tell people they love Larry Krasner. Now, he is being diminished in minority communities a bit, but not enough. It's going to take more. All right, here is President Trump in South Carolina.
Wait, before we move on to that,
Yes.
I just found this, Dom. I just wanted to play this back. So last night, Tiger Hill's 72 Seconds in Rittenhouse Square appeared. Really good documentary put together by the guy. But you appeared in it, and he used some of your words to kind of encapsulate. Now I felt it might be, good to play this back. So here's what a little clip from 72 Seconds in Rittenhouse Square, now available on Paramount Plus.
He could run around saying he's a civil rights lawyer all day long.
That's Ben, by the way,
doing
Ben
some of
Manis
these
as well.
easy pro bono clients. But Larry Krasner is a defense lawyer who's made a career of getting people off of some very heinous crimes.
The night that he was elected, people were screaming the full word, F the police, because that was his group. That's what he was sent in there to do. And I think he's done it remarkably well.
He was proud that he sued the police department 75 times. That was one of his calling cards. Every prosecutor was hiding evidence from Larry Krasner's perspective. Every police officer was corrupt from Larry Krasner's perspective.
I think you're actually throughout. I just scanning through it quickly the first time, and I remember the Larry Krasner combo.
Your judgment, it's a film, and I knew that. Should I have said the full F-bomb? Probably.
I mean, we're so used to being like within the guidelines of the FCC, though.
But I'm saying, would that not have more impact that people know that's exactly what they were chanting?
It would.
That's his mob. That's what they were chanting that night. I can't say it on the air, but yeah, I should have said it there. You're right. Your mind clicks in. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Blank the police. At least I didn't say blank the police. At least I said F the police. Yeah, that kind of, yeah, you get a little crazy. All right, let me take this side because I think this is a potential winner. Avery in Wilmington, Delaware. Embarrassing moment. Gaff. Who was it, Avery?
Jeffrey Toobin on the Zoom call.
Yeah.
Fluffy Tubby Tubin, yeah.
That is going to be hard to beat. That is one that's so remarkable. Out of all the gaps, we won't forget that. All right, that's the kind of thing we're looking for. It's 855-839-1210. You get on board. Hey, if you're thinking of selling your home, my friend Diane Cardano has some information that could change your home selling game. An important factor shaping today's market is the number of homes for sale, and inventory is low. But news you won't hear from the mainstream media is that new listings are actually trending up. It's true. In this fall market, when things usually slow down, more homes are popping up on the market. That's why you want to call Diane Cardano. Good news, positive stuff here. Call Diane at 215-576-8666. If you're waiting for common sense and government policies to sell your home, this is your wake-up call. Even with the uptick, the market is still starving for inventory. List now, beat your neighbor to the punch. Diane wants to help you get ahead of this trend to put more money in your pocket when you sell. Explore the benefits of making your move now before everyone else jumps in. Talk to Diane. It's worth a call right now at 215-576-8666 or online, 215-576-8666.com. Dom Giordano Show. Welcome in, 855-839-1210. So Cory Booker has weighed in. Probably time for Gold Bar Bob to go. Gold Bar Bob. Every time you see Menendez, just think of those gold bars. Gold Bar Bob. Well, I got a gold bar over here for you. Yes, so we'll see how that continues to play out. Jeff Van Drew will be here at 1:15. I want to ask him principally about the shutdown as we churn toward that. I have new presidential odds. Trump is increasingly the odds makers' favorites now. And Ron DeSantis, no. Nikki Haley increasing. I'll give you some of that. And what we're expecting out of last night's situation, or tomorrow night's debate. Tony in Roxborough's got a really good one, I think. Tony's on Talk Radio 1210. What's that gaffe embarrassing moment, Tony?
Yeah, Dom, it would be Adolf Hitler when Jesse Owens went over, an American, after Hitler had bragged about the superiority of the Germans and embarrassed the hell out of him when he ran circles around them.
Yes, that is one of my three most favorite moments in sports, to see Jesse Owens just completely annihilating anybody else.
That's right.
They had him race against racehorses at one point.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
I mean,
right.
just unbelievable what he did there. And the German runners were pretty good. Yeah. If you're Hitler watching that, here we go. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Very good. That's a very good. Those last two are excellent. Oh, Lou and Royersford on Talk Radio 1210. What's the gaffe or embarrassing moment, Lou?
Well, I'm not sure this guy was embarrassed, but I'm sure his staff was. The congressman from Georgia named Johnson was worried about the islands tipping over this military put too much equipment on it.
Yes, and he even came with a follow-up question. Could you?
Become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
And the admiral who had to sit there. I'll get back to you on that report to tell you when it would tip over and capsize. Those are brilliant ones back to back. Dan, you were right. This is your side question. Embarrassing moment, gaffe, coming off Chris Christie, sitting there with Jerry Jones as the Cowboys lose to a very inferior team. I'll say this, Dan, about the Eagles last night. Even though on the scoreboard it wasn't dominant, it's clear, and even though whatever was wrong with Hurts, I think he had flu-like symptoms for the game. Aside, he's not playing as well as last year. Whatever the issue is, it was dominance. Their defensive line, the interior of their defensive line, it was just overwhelming. And Tampa's not horrible. It's just that there was like no doubt. And these people that don't like the tush push, they ought to go and watch another sport. I like anything innovative. There should be no rule against that. Go figure out a way to stop it.
Isn't the tush push football at its purest form?
Yes, it is. It's like being in the backyard. We're pushing our guy into the end zone. You're trying to push him out.
It's brute strength. Let's line up and see who has the more strength.
Yeah. So you're going to put more people on the
it.
line to stop it. It's just you have a quarterback that not bench press, but some press 600 pounds apparently, which is hard to believe.
Yeah, there's people online, commentators even last night saying how they need to consider banning the tush push.
They do. They want to rule against it.
Come on.
Every innovation, everything in sports where somebody's a breakthrough. I remember DJ and I were in a league, right? And we'd had kid on first and third. And you couldn't steal bases. You could, but you had to stick on the base. We'd have the kid walk towards second. The catcher would throw it towards second, and the guy from third would then come in. They couldn't resist.
Yeah.
They banned it. You can't do that.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, exactly. This is the same thing with this.
I mean, what makes a tush push so special for the Eagles? Is it Kelsey or is it Hurts? Or is it a combination
It's
of
Hurts.
both?
I think it's Hurts.
I think it's Hurts?
Yeah, it's Kelsey.
His resilience
It's good,
is-
but it's just,
I don't know if I'd trust another quarterback besides Hurts to do it because of fear of injury. But when you're squatting 500 plus pounds.
600.
600?
It was 600 he squatted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when he was at Oklahoma, I guess so. Yeah.
I also think it has to, you need an incredibly agile and strong center to get as low as Kelsey gets right off the snap there.
Yeah.
It's a cool move that
It is. They're a dominant team. They're not playing on offense yet. My God, what it's going to be like when they do. All right. Coming up, Jeff Van Drew. We'll ask him about Ukraine and the shutdown, how the two things come together, and your calls. And we'll give you a little bit more detail as we get it. What the heck happened in Philadelphia today? Is it a breakthrough where this judge said, no, classic overcharging. You're not charging this cop with this. Larry Krasner then goes out the back door and goes to another court of common pleas to recharge, all within a matter of hours. All straight ahead on Talk Radio 1210.
This is Larry Steinhaus of Investor Schooling. I am so proud to announce the continuing success of our students at Investor Schooling. You already know that at Investor Schooling, we teach real estate investing and stock options. Did you also know that we teach things about tax savings, estate planning, and business coaching as well? We teach things about money I bet you never knew. At Investor Schooling, we teach from the perspective of true experience. If you want to see what our students think about Investor Schooling, please check out the over 160 5-star Google reviews. To find out more about how you can change your financial life, go to investorschooling.com or call 866-424-2829. That's 866-424-2829, and you can attend a complimentary class this Thursday at 7 p.m. Attend that class and see for yourself what Investor Schooling is all about. Go to investorschooling.com or call 866-424-2829. That's 866-424-2829. We can't wait to see you this Thursday.
I'm Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I learned about atrial fibrillation the hard way. My symptoms would come and go, shortness of breath, fatigue. I kept going. Then I got so lightheaded, I couldn't. My doctor said I have AFib, so I'm about 5 times more likely to have a stroke. Other symptoms, irregular heartbeat, heart racing, chest pain can come and go, but the risk of stroke stays. If you have symptoms, tell a doctor. Visit notimetowait.com.
Sponsored by Bristol Myers Squibb and Pfizer.
Whether you own a local business
or a global one. You know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
Battles aren't won solely on the field. That's a common